What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rusty Acres. Today, we're going to be doing some maintenance on the Cub 106. Now, let's get into the video. So our first step is we need to get the motor warmed up so the oil is warm, thins out a little bit, gets all the junk that's on the bottom of the oil pan kind of in the oil, so when we drain it, it'll come out. So to get the motor warmed up, I'm going to go take a ride out to the cornfields real quick. We're out here. This corn is looking pretty good. Tassels are starting to dry up. Corn is coming soon. Right, for the oil change, I've got my oil pan, I've got my ratchet with the 7/16, rags, because this gets messy sometimes, and a zip tie, which I'll show you why. Alright, so now for the reason why I need a zip tie. So what we do is we pull out the key, and then zip tie it to the steering wheel, so if someone comes along, they will see that there's a zip tie holding the key to the steering wheel, and will know not to move this tractor. Now, I'm on my own, so it's not too important, but it's still a good practice. All right, oil pan's under there. Now, wait, there's one thing that I need to do. Gotta put your hat on the seat so it don't get dirty while you're under there. All right, now that I got that very important step out of the way, I can get myself under the tractor, and I can drop out the oil plug, which is this little guy over here. And I want to take it slow because you never know when oil might start dripping out. Getting loose. While it's loosening, I'm going to go grab some rags. Alright, rags acquired, so if anything gets messy, I'll be ready to clean it up. And we're still lined up. All right, now we can do it by hand. And the oil's coming out. I just like to put my drip plug on the little top of the pan so I don't lose it. And now the oil's draining. All right, now while the oil is draining, which you should have let it drain overnight, but we're not going to. We're just going for a quickie. I'm going to get some grease put into our front end. Now these are the spindles where the piece, or that piece, I'm blanking on what it's called. I think it's just called the spindle. That's where it sits in the axle. Since it's always pivoting, it's always a good idea to put in some fresh grease. And when it starts to come out the bottom of the joint, that's how you know you have enough grease in there. Now to get the other side done. I found about 2 pumps of grease from normal grease gun does well. There, you can see it come out the bottom. All right, so continuing with our front end greasing, we have a grease fitting right there on the pivot point of the axle. So when you go over rough terrain, that point pivots and this grease keeps it from wearing out. So since I always forget about this one, I'm gonna put in like 4 or 5 pumps. That's probably good. All right, and that's the front end finished. All right, for our next grease fitting, I'll put an arrow in. it's really hard to get to. So we need to take off that cover, which is 2 Phillips head screws. So now I'm gonna take that cover off. It's a long screw. Whoa. All right, and now do the other side. All right, now for our final grease fitting, which is on the steering box. We had to remove the cover, and let's pump it full of grease. I'm not seeing any grease coming out, because if you look about an inch to the right of the grease hose, you'll see that that's actually a pivot point, and that's where the grease should be coming out of. I'm gonna pump it a little bit more. All right, and I think we're good. All right, so after draining our oil, my oil plug has a little bit of junk on it. I'm gonna get that wiped off with a rag. Now my oil plug is nice and clean. We'll clean up the hole a little bit. Now our hole is clean, we can get this threaded in. This way, wait, no. There we go. And I still have a little bit of Teflon tape just kind of hanging out on this, so I'm not too worried about it leaking. I just need to tighten it well. Let's get a ratchet. We need to go the other way. There we go. We'll get this nice and snugged up, and then we'll put oil in. One more for good luck, and we're good. All right, and taking a look at our oil. Ugh. It is quite dark, full of all kinds of nasty junk. Good thing we changed it. All right, now to put in our oil. Oil goes in through the dipstick, so that gets pulled. Funnel gets put in there. And then for oil, I found that straight 30 weight oil works pretty good for us. I know some people like to run 1030 in Cubs. That works fine too. I just prefer the 30 because this motor is a little bit old, so it helps to have thicker oil. Keeps it lubricated. Now I believe these motors take about 1 to 1.5 quarts, so I'm gonna put some in and check the stick. All right, everybody, I'm just getting my last little bits of oil put in. I'd say that's probably enough oil. For me personally, I like to fill a tiny bit above my fill line on the dipstick, just because I'm kind of paranoid and these motors tend to burn a little bit of oil. So on our dipstick, we have obviously the end of it, this spot that looks a little rough, that's where you want your oil to be. The end of it, that's full. I like to be a tiny bit above that. Just like I said, I'm a bit paranoid about running out of oil. Keeping a little bit extra full tends to make it not run out of oil. Now, let's give it a check, see how much we got. And putting too much oil in will cause the motor smoking extremely. So we don't want to put in too much. So I'm hoping that I put in just the right amount. All right, I put in about to the top of the F. I wiped my dipstick clean so you can't see anything, but it's right about to where my thumb ends, which is pretty good, and that's how I like it. All right, so now that everything's been greased and there's oil in the motor, and it's not leaking out because we put in the plug, I can now cut the key off the steering wheel because I put it on, I put oil in it. Now, if there's oil in it, it's safe to run. I get to cut it off, put the key in, and then we will take it for a test drive. All right, now that we have oil in it, we can fire it up. We'll let it run for a little bit, check the oil, because oil has to get up all into the motor because there's the valves that has to get, the oil has to get in the valves. So we're just gonna give it a little test run and then check our oil.